I'd say the average is probably around the £100 or, you know, even the £125 mark, like Eltham College. Some schools charge more than that. You know, I think the most that I've seen in the schools within reach is about £150. Hi guys, this is Joycelyn here. I did promise to do a video about the application or the admissions process for independent schools, and here we are. I'm doing just as I promised to do. So if you watched the last video that I did on grammar schools, let's move me in the center a bit. If you watched the last video that I did about grammar schools and the admissions process, I was very clear about the fact that that process is separate to anything to do with applying for applying for independent schools. And just to avoid any confusion, an independent school is also known as a private school. What is the key difference between an independent school and a grammar school? One is free, grammar schools, and one isn't, independent or private schools, as they're also known. Now, another key difference is grammar schools are state schools that are academically selective. Independent or private schools are independent of the state. So, you know, they run the school based on the school fees and the goodwill of parents and so on. Obviously, they have a PTA, parents, teachers association, just like you would have in a state school. They can fundraise for various things to, you know, updo the playground or, you know, all sorts of things basically, but they are not state run. They are independent of the state, hence the name. Now, because of that, when you register your child to sit the exam for an independent or private school, it's not like what you would do for a grammar school. You know, with the grammar schools, as I explained in the last video, you're either going to do it via the county or the local authority within which the school resides. So, for example, if you were applying for St Olave's, that is a school that is in the borough of Bromley. That's probably the worst example to use because it's a super selective school and you actually apply directly through them. So that's not the best example. Let's use Townley Grammar. That's a school within the borough of Bexley. And so you would apply via Bexley for your child to sit the Bexley test. And then once successful and deemed selective, you could put Townley Grammar rather down. However, with independent schools, you cannot apply via the council for your child to sit the exam for their school because they're independent of the state. You apply directly to the independent school in question. So I'm going to show you on screen how to find, you know, the admissions and the registrations section on the school. So I'm on Google and we will use a school, for example, Eltham College, and we will say Eltham College admissions. So before we carry on with this amazing video, please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications so that you will get notified every time a new Geek School video goes up. Enjoy! And we'll click on the link and it will bring us to their admissions page. Now, Eltham College is a school that has an entrance exam for the 7+. So children sit the exam in year 2. If they're successful, they join the school in year 3. That's what the 7+ exam is. Some schools have the 10+. So the students sit the exam in year 5. and start the school in year 6. But we're talking about the 11 plus, where your child would sit the exam in year 6, and when successful, will start the school in year 7. And while I'm here, the 16 plus is for sixth form. Let's just cover all bases, shall we? There is one missing here, and some schools have something called the 13 plus. So with the 13 plus, the children sit the exam in year 8, and when successful, they join the school. They start the school in September of year 9. Okay, so I'll keep it simple there. This is obviously different for something called the common entrance, but again, we are focusing entirely on the 11 plus. So here we are. We would click the button for entry at 11 plus. It gives you a bit of a blurb, some detail on how to apply. You know, you can see that here they're explaining the open days or the visitor mornings, which independent schools are really good at doing this. The only thing probably that's affected it now might be COVID, and, you know, all the various bubbles and whether schools have reviewed their policy on it. But pre-COVID-19 and all the lockdowns and the bubbles and so on, aside from the open days, many independent schools were very good at organizing visitor mornings, you know, so it just meant that if you've missed the open day, they tend to have other mini, they're not really mini open days, but, you know, you get given a bit of a tour of the school and so on, so that you can get a better idea rather than just missing the open day and, you know, having nothing else. So one thing that I will bring to light is that there will be an application fee for your child to sit the entrance test for the independent schools. There will be an application fee. This may come as somewhat of a shock, especially if you've been registering your child for the grammar school exams, which are free. With independent schools, they tend to charge anywhere from £50 upwards. I'd say the average is probably around the £100 or, you know, even the £125 mark, like Elton College. Some schools charge more than that. You know, I think the most that I've seen in the schools within reach is about £150, but I'm sure, you know, that might not necessarily be the cap. They just happen to be, you know, the schools that I've seen, based on the schools that our students are sitting exams for and so on, and my own experience with our 2 children and the application fee for their entrance exams at various independent schools. So you pay the application fee, you know, in order for your child to be able to write the exam. And these days, you know, most independent schools have an online application. So like Elton College, you know, once you go on the admissions page and you go through, you would click on the registration form, which I'll do just now. Click on that and, you know, you sort of enter all the various details. So we can see, you know, the form, it will be detailed because, you know, there are some key bits of information that they'll need. Of course, you know, the usual form type questions, all their names, their date of birth, their nationality, their gender, ethnic origin, and so on. But here, obviously, you know, things like the school that your child attends. So if, you know, you start typing, it will come up. This isn't true of every independent school registration form. Some of them are a lot shorter than this, you know, but I like the fact that everything gets done here once and for all. And then, you know, you pay the fee eventually. It won't let me click on that because obviously there are some prerequisite sections that have to be completed before then. And then, you know, the opportunity comes up to pay. I'm going to go back and bring your attention to something that you need to look out for. So on many of the forms, you may have to do the checkbox to select, you know, the different scholarships, or you may have to just select all the ones you're interested in. And, you know, with this one, it tells you to press and hold the control key if you want to select more than one. So if your child is very talented in their arts, you might go for the arts scholarship. Drama, music, sports. If you want no scholarship because you just literally want them to sit the exam and be considered in that way, you would click that. And then you can see something here called the bursary. Let's talk about the bursaries and scholarships. So scholarships give money off based on your child's ability in a particular domain. So whether they're art, talented, drama, music, you know, they play a musical instrument, they've been graded to maybe grade 4. These days, many independent schools are looking for more than one instrument if they're to give a music scholarship. And that's something that's been coming in, I'd say probably in the last sort of couple of years or so. It's quite a new thing to expect the children to play more than one instrument. It used to be one, you know, grade 4 sort of area is safe. Obviously, the higher, the better. And, you know, with sports, scholarships, you would obviously select that and so on. The bursaries, however, are means tested. So your eligibility for a bursary will depend on the household income, and it also
Hi guys,
depends
it's Joycelyn
on the
here, your
the
favourite
school
person
you're
from Geek
applying
School
for
Tutoring.
has put
If you're
in
new
place.
to this channel,
So
then
on
I am the
average,
managing
you know,
director
most bursary
who's just knocked down a fan.
caps stop
Oh, what a wonderful way to start this
sort of
video.
early
I'm the
to
managing
basically in
director
the
of Geek School
70s
Tutoring,
range,
and
you know,
we
£70,000
specialise in
that
the
is.
11+
I've seen some
preparation. We're
schools
based in
where they
Beckenham,
brought it down
in
to the
Lewisham, and
60s.
soon to be in Croydon
At some
as well.
point, James Allen
Today,
Girls,
I
JAGS
want
as
to
it's
talk
well
about
as
the
it's
independent school
well known
admissions
as well.
process.
Brought theirs
If you
down to
watch the video
66,000,
on the
I
grammar school
believe.
admissions process, I
And
promise
some
to
of the
do
London schools
another
are known
video
for
on
having
the
a cap of
independent school admissions
120,000,
process.
and
so
you know
here
it
we are.
varies. So you really need to
So
find out from the school.
there are a
But
few
obviously,
things
when
to
you're
note
registering, you can just
when it
select
comes
it.
to
They'll send you more
registering your child
details,
for
and
independent school exams.
if
I touched
you
on it
are not
briefly
eligible
in
because
the other
basically
video
you
about
earn
the
too
grammar
much,
school admissions.
you know, you'll
One
get the
clear thing to
details
note
for it.
is that
It's probably
independent
wiser
schools are
to
just
select
that.
it
They
so
are
you can at
completely
least get those
independent
details,
of
unless
state
the
and
information happens to
independent of
be
each other, unless they
on the
happen to
school
be
website.
in
So
consortium
if
of
I just go
sorts.
back,
A few years
some
back, you
schools
know, we
really
had the
go into
massive North
detail
London
about the
consortium of
criteria
schools, which
for
kind of
the
disbanded.
scholarships
There's just a
and the
very
criteria
tiny
for the
number
bursaries.
now,
So it says
for a number
here
of reasons which I won't get into
the
because it's not
value of a
relevant to every
bursary
parent watching
as
this
a
video.
proportion of fees
But
will be
essentially, the
dependent
grammar
upon the
schools
financial
are independent, so
circumstances
you
of
need to
parents
bear that in
and will
mind
take into account their
when you are
combined
applying.
assets.
What
So
does
it's
that
not
mean
just
in
about the
reality?
household
It
income,
means that
it's
you
also
have to
about
apply
things like your
for
savings,
your
if you
child
have
to
other
sit each
property or
school
other
individually.
investments and
There
assets and
isn't
so
one
on.
form
They
for a
do
collection
consider
of
all of these
schools
things
that are private or
because
independent within a
basically, you
borough,
know, if
like the grammar
one
school
child is
application
coming
process.
from
It
a
really
low-income
doesn't
family
work
where
like
maybe
that
they are
in
in
general
social
terms.
housing,
So,
and another
of course,
child
during COVID, there was another layer of complexity because some schools
maybe,
grouped together,
you know, the family
so that,
is on a low
students
income,
would
but
sit one
they happen to have a
exam,
second
to
property.
avoid
They're
so
obviously in
many
two completely
new
different
people,
financial
students attending the school
positions.
to
You
sit
could
an
sell
exam because we
the
were
second
in the
property
midst
and
of
help to support
lockdowns
your
and so on,
child
bubbles
in
and all the
their
rest of it.
secondary school
That isn't the case now.
schooling,
It wasn't the case
whereas the first
pre-lockdown
example
either.
don't
So
have
things
that
are
option, for
basically
example.
back to
So
normal.
the scholarship
So
criteria is also
you
one to look at.
apply
You know,
directly
most
to
schools
an
these days will
independent
put
school
the
if you want your
children
child to
into
sit
the
that
pool
exam.
for the academic scholarship. and depending on how well they do,
application tends
they
to come
may
with
be
a cost. Now, on
offered a
average,
scholarship, an
every
academic scholarship,
application
or
will
when it
cost
comes to
about
interviewing, they
£100.
may
Some
be
schools are
asked to
slightly less. Some
attend
schools are
an
slightly more or
academic scholarship
significantly
interview,
more.
you
It's
know,
all very
where they're
transparent
asked a
on the
few
application
different questions to just the
forms, the
normal
online forms and
independent
so
school
on.
interview.
So you're not going to be left with,
you know,
a
Elton's
massive
very good
invoice or
at
something like that after your
explaining
child
things
has
like the
sat the
sports
exams. In
scholarship.
my
You know,
experience,
if you
you
enter your
have to
child
pay
for that,
before,
they're
your
asked to
child
come
gets
and
anywhere
attend an
near a
assessment
desk to
day.
write the
They
exam
do seek
anyway. So
references
you're
from
safe
school
in that
and any
assurance.
clubs that they're in externally and
Now,
so on.
we all know that, you should know
And,
if
you
you've
know,
been
they're
watching the
usually
videos,
called in
that
for an
grammar schools
assessment
have their
day
exams
to
mainly
do
in
a practical
September, at least
assessment,
stage
which
1.
can
If a
include
school
things
has
like
more than
rugby,
one
hockey,
stage, they'll
cricket,
do
and
the
netball. There's a
exams
fitness
in
test and
September.
optional
With
swimming.
independent
You know,
schools, it's
music
so
scholarships,
different across the board for different reasons.
really,
So
they will be
generally,
required to
the
maybe
independent
play
school exams are in
something
January.
during
That's when
that
the bulk of
assessment.
the exams
But
are.
the purpose
However,
of
we
being
do
given a music
have
scholarship
some
is that they have to basically be
schools,
involved in things like the
GDST
school
schools,
orchestra, for example,
girls' day
or
pass
if they get a
schools,
music
and
scholarship
they
because of
tend
their
to have their
singing,
exams
then they
as
would
early
need
as
to be
October,
in the choir
sometimes
and so on,
November,
and be
so on.
available
And
for
then
school
there's another
performances
layer of
and so on.
complexity in that
You know, so
independent schools
you know, it's
tend
really
to
worth
have
looking
some
into,
independent schools, not all
looking
of
into
them.
all
Some
the
of them
different
have
types
a
of scholarships
pretest
on
before the
each
main
of the
exam in
schools that
January,
you
and
want
that
to
can
put
happen
your
in
child in
October or
for,
November.
because
And if your child
again,
is successful, they're
independent
then
schools
called
are
in
independent,
to sit,
not just of the state, but they're independent of
basically
each
sit.
other. So while there might
Come on,
be,
brain.
you know, sort of a
to
general
sit
core
the written
set
exam
of requirements,
in January.
they are
So
all
the
different.
pretest is
So
often
they can ask
the
for
ISEP
whatever they want,
adaptive or the
really,
semi-adaptive,
in that
and
process.
that tends to
So
be a computer-based
basically, once you've paid
test.
for
I'm going to root out
the
the video that I
registration,
did on that some
you
time
know,
ago,
you will then
explaining what the ISEP
be sent the
pretest
details
and
for the exam,
sem-pretest
and
is all
you know,
about.
your child will
That's
sit
one
the
to watch,
exam.
especially
Some
if your
schools
if you know
have
that the
the
school in question
interview
will
on the
be
same day as
requiring
the
this of
exams.
your child.
Other schools will invite your
So,
child in
how
to
do we
attend
apply for
the
an
interview
independent
based on
school?
how well
So I'm
they've
going
done.
to go off to
And
Google,
that's always
okay?
a nod in the
And
right direction. You know, if
basically,
your
on
child has done
Google,
terribly,
let's
the
just say
chances
that you
in the
want your
exam, the
child to
chances
go
of
to
them
an
being
amazing school
invited
like
for the
Elton
interview
College.
are obviously
So
much
you would
reduced.
literally
It would be odd
type
for
in
them to be
Elton
invited.
College admissions.
So it's
Google will
always
take you there,
a nod in
and it will show
the
you
right
basically
direction if a child is invited
the
in for
admissions
an
page,
interview.
hopefully.
And
And
case in
once you
point
go
is
to
for the
the
assessments for
school's admissions
music,
page, independent schools
sports, and
often
so
have
on.
more than one point
Now,
of
when it
entry.
comes
In
to
other
the
words, more than
exams,
one
the
exam.
bulk of
So
the
you'll see
independent school
something in,
exams
not for
tend to
all
take
schools,
place
but for
in
some,
January. But
entry
there
at
are some
7+.
schools that bring
Okay,
the
that isn't
exam,
year 7. That is
have the
age
exams
7+. In
before
other words, year 3.
Christmas.
And you'll see
Girls'
entry
schools,
at
especially
11+.
those in the girls' day trust type of schools,
And with
tend
the
to have their
11+,
exams quite
what's
early on.
basically
You know, I've known
happening is,
instances where the exams in as early as
goodness.
October. So
11
it's
plus
really
is what
worth
you are looking for,
into
basically.
registering.
Okay,
you
so
know, any time
you
from
would
like the
click
summer
on
term
entry at
all the way
11+,
into September. I'd say by September,
and it will, you know, have
you should
a lot
really
of
be looking at
detailed
paying
explanation,
and
hopefully,
registering for the schools that you want your
on,
child
the
to sit
different
an exam
application,
in. And some
dates to
schools
bear
have
in
a
mind,
pre-test,
and so on.
which
So,
is usually
on
these
here,
days
an Elton is amazing
something
with
like
their
an ISEP
explanations,
adaptive test or a
communications, and
SEM
so on.
adaptive
You can
test,
tell that I'm
often
a parent
done
of 2
online
children who attend that
within the
amazing
school.
But
And if your
basically,
child
it will
is
have the key
successful,
dates,
then they're
the
invited
open
in
day,
for what
the
I call the
registration
real
deadline
exam,
is
the
key
written
thing there.
exam.
We can see that for
And,
Elton,
it
it's
then
on Monday,
moves
the
on from
14th
there,
of
basically.
November. Okay,
And
a
so
lot of
that's
independent
generally
schools
how
who
things
have an
work with the
exam, who
admissions.
have their exams
Now,
in
for
January,
most schools,
like
there
Elton,
isn't an
you can see
official
here that they have their exam,
national offer day
their
for
exams
independent
on a couple
schools
of
as
dates
there
in
is for
January.
the grammar
They
and the
tend to
state
have
schools.
their application
However, every
deadline
year,
in November.
a lot of
But
the
remember,
schools
I
tend to
mentioned,
agree a
that some
date
schools have their
somehow.
exams earlier.
It could be
So
like the 12th
obviously
of February
their
or
registration
at
deadline
the
will be earlier as well.
the
So
Friday
very
or Thursday or
important to do
something
your
before
research ahead
the
of
half-term
time,
holidays
so that
in
you know
February.
exactly what's coming
But
up.
some schools
To be
do not
honest,
stick to
I'm
this,
always an
and
advocate
it's
for
not uncommon
registering
for
as
offer
early as
letters to go
September,
ahead of the
even in the
dates
summer
that
if
the
possible.
bulk of the
And you know,
independent
then you
schools
know that
are
you know, you've
using
got it
at
out
that
of the
time.
way,
So just something
and
to
so
bear
on.
in mind as well.
Okay,
Now, when
so
you accept your
basically,
independent
you know,
school
for
place, you will be
the
expected
11
to
plus,
pay a deposit, you
for
know,
most
usually
schools,
around the
they will have
£1,000
their
mark,
sample papers,
which you
and
will
know, I'll
get
come
back
to that
in the
shortly,
fees,
time winning. But
basically,
we're
you know,
talking
in the
about
last term
the
of your child's
registration
schooling. So
process.
if they have
you would want to go
sixth form,
onto the
you
11
can
plus
expect it to be
registration
given in
form,
sixth form. If they're
and
successful,
then
you know,
just scroll down, and you can see here
being
that
offered
this
in
is
sixth
basically
form,
an electronic
or you know,
registration.
at the end of year
So
11,
you literally put your
for it
child's
to be
details
refunded
in,
there,
and then you know your
which
details,
means that in the last term you pay less.
any other
Often the
parents or
deposit
guardians
is
who
reflective
will be
of
paying
the
the
offer.
fees.
So if you
So
if your
you know
child
your
is
details,
given, you
and
know,
then
a 50%
the payment
scholarship, some
details will
schools
be
will give a
obviously
discount
for the
on the
exam.
deposit
You
for
know,
that. So
if your
it would
child
be
is offered a
50%
place at
deposit,
the school,
and
you'll get
so
a
on.
lovely
So
big
these are
pack with
questions
lots
to
of
also,
useful
you know,
information that you need to know, key dates
ask the
and
school,
so on.
email the school,
Along
and find
with,
out,
you know, a
you know,
direct debit
via their
form a lot of the
admissions
time
team,
to
how,
complete,
or the
and
registrar,
so you know that's
which
how all
they're
of that
often
type of
called,
thing is managed. So
how that
I love
process
the fact that
works.
Elton
And
keeps
that's
their
about it,
forms
really.
very
You know,
straightforward.
it can be
So
quite
it's not
a
as confusing
process,
as
but
some of
once
the
you've
other
gone
forms
through
can be.
one or two of the
So you would
applications, it
notice
becomes very
that
straightforward.
there's a section
There's something
right
else that comes up
above
as
the
well,
registration
which I
form
forgot to mention,
called
which is
scholarships
how many
and
exams should your
bursaries. And I'm
child do?
glad that, you know,
I think
they've
I'll
put
do
it
a
at the
separate
top,
video
because a
on
lot
that.
of parents
But
miss
it really
out.
varies, you know. It's not
And,
uncommon
you
for
know,
children
it's
to
such a
do
shame when
anything from
a
like 3
child
to
has got
5
some
independent school
talents that could
exams.
have
Some
afforded
children do
them
more,
a
but
scholarship,
of
whether
course,
it's in
you know, you've
sport,
got to get the
music,
buy-in
arts,
of the child.
drama,
And of
you
course,
know,
you've got
and
to
so
also
on.
bear
But
in mind
because
that you'll be
maybe
paying
the
for each of the
application
exams.
form, the
So
registration
if you're doing
form,
5,
and
that's
the details on the
£500.
website were not as
If you're
clear
doing
as
more
they
than
should have
that,
been,
it's
parents had
significantly
missed
more.
out on it.
And then
So
sometimes the
scholarships
exam
are
dates clash.
based on your child's
So,
ability.
you know, especially
So
schools that are
usually,
within reach of
when
each
you
other,
register your
this
child
is
for an
something to
exam,
bear in mind. So
for the
in some
entrance exam, which
instances,
is
you
what
may find that
independent
you would
private
have to
schools call
make
them,
a
or the
shortlist
11 plus
very
exam,
early, because it
which
would
is
be
the
impossible
catch-all
for your
term, you know,
child
for
to sit an
the
exam at,
independent
you know,
and grammar school exams.
a couple of
Usually
schools,
these days,
sometimes
when you
even
apply
more,
for a school,
because
the
somewhere along
school
the
will
line the
enter your
exam dates
child
will
in
clash.
for the
So a
academic
judgment call would need to be
scholarship by
made very
default.
early
In other
on.
words,
You can
if they do
contact
well in
the
the
school and
exam,
ask
they
them
do
if they have an
excellently in the
alternative
exam,
date.
they would be
But, you know,
considered
there's
for the scholarship
sort of an
anyway.
unspoken thing when it
It's
comes to applying for
usually
independent
the
schools.
sport,
Every school wants to
music,
believe that,
art and
you
drama
know, you
scholarships
prioritize
that
their school ahead
you
of
would
others.
need to
Of course, they
keep
know
an
that
eye out
children
for
often sit
if you're
exams
hoping for
at
your
their
child to be
competitor
awarded one,
schools or
because it
other
could be an
neighbouring
extra tick
schools or
box
schools
during
that
the
are a bit
registration
similar to them.
process. It
So
could be
they understand
you know,
that, and
extra
it doesn't
forms that you
surprise me
need to
that
fill
the
in
dates
and
clash.
so on. And
I've
if
got
you
no
miss that,
evidence to
sometimes,
suggest
you know,
that they
because
planned
of
this
the sheer
ahead.
volume of applications,
But the cynic
schools
in me
might
makes
not
me
allow
think
you,
that possibly
you
they
know,
do.
to apply thereafter.
You know,
And with the
whatever the case
bursaries
may
in
be,
particular,
you can
you know,
request
they're
it.
often dealt with by
I
a
wouldn't necessarily
third-party
make it known to the
organisation.
school
So
that it's
once
because
you've missed
your
the
child has an
deadline,
exam
it's
at
very,
another
very
school for
difficult
the reasons
to,
I've just described.
you know,
You may try and
retrospectively
say, you know,
apply,
they
even
have
if
a
it's
prior
a week
appointment
later or
that they
something. So
can't
it's really
move or
important
something like
to
that.
understand all of
I'm
that.
not
Now,
suggesting that you
bursaries are
lie.
means
I'm
tested.
not
So
suggesting that
it's
you lie.
basically money off,
I'm just suggesting
depending
that
on your
maybe don't
income,
say
but
that
it's
you
obviously
want
linked to
a
how well your
school that you're
child
applying for
performs in the
to
exam.
change the date
So
that
in
your
order for your
child
child
sits
to be
the
awarded a
exam
bursary,
because you want them to
they
sit
have
the
to, of
exam
course,
for
pass
another
the exam.
school. Can you
But, you know,
imagine what
these are
that
very
sounds like? It's
competitive
like saying to
exams. So
somebody,
schools
you know,
want to offer
you've
bursaries
invited me
to
to your
children
wedding,
who
but
come
I also
from
want to
families
go
that
to
need
this
that
other wedding. So
financial
can you
support the
change the
most,
date on
but
your
also
wedding?
have demonstrated,
I mean, I can
you
just
know,
see an
academic
invitation
ability. Maybe
list
they
where your
are
name probably
gifted in, you know, sport, music,
disappears
art,
on
drama,
if you were to even consider that
combination and so
you know.
on.
So it's just something to bear in mind, really. Something to bear in mind.
Let's go on to the scholarships and bursaries
yes,
section.
so I think I've covered everything.
I think I've covered everything.
So that's it really.
Explains a bit more about
the independent school application process.
Work.
Of course,
and then,
if any questions come up, please, put them in the comments, and I'll always try to oblige as quickly as I can.
Basically, as it says
and
here,
it's also helpful for me because it lets me know what parents are thinking of, and obviously gives me other video ideas.
Will be dependent
but
upon
generally,
the
I'm
circumstances
very, very keen to be as helpful as possible.
Their combined
and one other thing that I will say is, please do share this video.
Income,
you will notice on YouTube and the like, there aren't many videos like this at all.
For example,
why should they the 11 plus shouldn't be a hidden secret. Really, there's a school for every child, but many parents see other children as competition for their own. And it really shouldn't be the case, really. So that's basically what I want to say. Share it in your school WhatsApp groups. Open it up to other parents who, possibly don't even know about the fact that they could get a scholarship or bursary. But there they are with a child who's very gifted and talented, very academic, or has a natural gifting somewhere, and that child could lose out on the opportunity of a lifetime because their parents never find out, and you're sitting on all this knowledge. And so on. So please do share. Sharing is caring and all of that. So thank you very much again for watching, and I will see you soon in the next video. Bye. If we go into back to Google, I would do that from there. And if we type in Christ Hospital, admissions. So this is another school, but they are boarding primarily. So we're on the admissions, and you can see it's all very straightforward there. Apply for a place, and when it comes up, you can see that they have specific criteria, specific things that they want you to have handy. Reference number for the payment if you pay via bank transfer. So unlike Eltham, they consider a bank transfer for your registration. Digital photocopy of your child's birth certificate. Again, of a divorce document or custody orders and resident orders if applicable. Digital copy of your child's latest school report, and a digital photocopy of the applicant's passport, basically. So your child's passport as well. Every school has a different way of doing things. Some schools have a basic registration form to begin with, and then you're given access to a portal where you would upload some of these extra documents and so on. They all manage their process differently because of their own administrative processes and so on. And you can see here that the registration, £65. Wow, that's a lot cheaper than a lot of the other schools. And they can take that payment via PayPal as well. So it's very straightforward. There's nothing here that is daunting. It's just like filling in any general application for your child, really. Maybe a little bit more detail because they want to know what school your child currently attends and so on. And then here, let's go back. Let's see if they've got the 11 plus scholarships and bursary section. Can't see it just yet, but for some schools, they list out that tick box on their online registration or on the paper form if that's what they're still using. And so you would tick the scholarship categories that are of relevance. This is what I was referring to. It's very easy to miss if you're not careful. And of course, some schools will give you the option to apply for an academic scholarship. These days, most of them, though, are, they are deciding whether the children are should have an academic scholarship or not, basically. And then, the bursary section, you've got to request that bursary form because that's a separate application form and so on. And then here, they want to know if your child has got any SEN, special educational needs and so on. So this is basically it, really. It's very straightforward. There's nothing overly daunting at this stage. Very, very straightforward. And so that's it, really. It's just so straightforward. So the main takeaway is to get the application form completed as soon as possible. Register it so that you don't miss the deadline. With some schools, if you miss the deadline, they may allow you to do a later application, but your child may not be able to go for the scholarships, and the bursary applications would quite likely have elapsed. So, you don't want to be in that kind of position. So it's important, to get that done as soon as possible. Yes, as soon as possible. Let me move myself to the center. So I hope that's been helpful. I really do. And I hope you like my new video style. I thought I'd try this, for, so that I could do a screen share and show the process more clearly to parents. So I hope, it's not being a distraction, but helpful instead. And please, comment, let me know what you think. If you have any other questions, of course, do share this to other parents. Information like this is very thin on the ground. I've made it my life's work, or part of anyway, to try and help as many parents understand the 11 plus process as possible. But it's really helpful if parents like yourselves will share it within your WhatsApp groups and so on, so that other parents can get the useful information that is needed for them to give their children the best choices as well. And that's it. So thank you all so much for watching. I will see you soon. Bye.